At Journey HR, we've been exploring the powers of CBT. We've been fortunate enough to work with Becs from Mindful Peak Performance. She's going to take us through what CBT is and the benefits of what it is to us.
So what is CBT? So CBT stands for Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, and exactly like the title, it's a therapy, it's a talking therapy that helps people to explore the links between how they're feeling, how they're behaving, and how they're thinking. And what CBT does is it helps to alleviate any distress or unease by allowing people to introduce and implement improved ways of behaving and thinking that can help how they're feeling. So CBT can be used for a wide variety of mental health issues as well as presenting problems. How does CBT work? So CBT is based on the concept that how we think, how we feel, how we behave, and even how our body feels are all interconnected, so they're all linked. And a lot of the time, what we tend to see is that people are getting into very negative loops, vicious cycles of behaving negatively and thinking negatively without even really knowing it. All they know is that their mood has been impacted and they don't feel good as a result. So with CBT, what we do is we break the problems down into smaller pieces, more manageable pieces, and we start by looking at ways to implement changes, so positive, rational changes. So looking at ways that we can change behaviours, looking at ways that we can challenge our thinking and maybe think more rationally. And by doing so, we can start to break the chain, break the negative cycle, and in turn we can start to feel better. So uses of CBT. So CBT has been shown to be effective in treating a number of mental health disorders. So things like depression, eating disorders, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, panic, trauma, the list goes on. But CBT is also really useful for treating what I call presenting problems. So it may be stress felt from being on your commute home, or how you're feeling after you've been around colleagues at a social event or friends around a social event, or relationship issues. CBT can be used and can be really effective and really helpful in helping us just to process daily life. So let's talk a little bit more about CBT in the workplace. As we already know, CBT is really helpful for helping us to replace old unhelpful processes and bringing in new helpful beneficial processes that help us to feel better. So with CBT, the approach is very structured, very efficient, but it can also be tailored uniquely to the person. So people who need maybe a little bit of support around gaining confidence and control, CBT can be great for that. CBT is also great for helping to improve staff morale and relationships, as well as also helping people to improve their overall well-being, which in turn is going to help with their performance at work. So when we look at CBT and we look at how it's helpful in the workplace, we know that it can help people to lower their stress levels by looking at how they're thinking and how they're managing and behaving and acting on a day-to-day basis. We know that CBT can help people to be performing at high levels and be working under high pressures, because again, strategies can be introduced to help support them as they do so. So CBT is not only helpful for personal issues, but also for professional issues. So a question that I get asked quite often is, how can CBT be long lasting? And I always respond with something very similar along the lines of practice, practice, practice. So within a treatment session, within CBT, you learn a lot of interventions, new ways of thinking and behaving that need to be implemented into daily living in order for people to feel differently, to feel change. So what you want at the end of CBT is for people to almost be their own therapist. They're taking responsibility for how they feel. They've got a toolbox of interventions and strategies that they can use, and then it's up to them to be practicing that regularly. Because what we don't want is people to become so reliant on therapy and not be taking ownership for their own well-being and their own emotions. We want to hand it over and say, actually, you can now be in charge of this. You've got all the tools, now you just need to put these into practice. So for CBT to last beyond treatment, it really is practice. Continued practice will help people to continually be working and improving on their emotional state. So this brings me nicely on to the last question, and how can you bring CBT, how can you use CBT in everyday life? Well, it's the same thing really, practice. It's so important that you practice your interventions, your strategies, your techniques, because if you practice them enough, you're going to start to create new habits, and you're going to automatically over time be behaving in healthier ways or thinking in healthier ways. So to bring things into everyday life, you can almost transition your new skills to both professional issues and personal issues. So for example, if you are using CBT to help you connect in relationships, the skills that you start to learn, the techniques that you start to learn, you're able to use maybe with work colleagues as well as with partners, and as well with family members, and as well with friends. So you can start to practice them enough in different areas of your life, and hopefully what you see and what you feel is change for the better, and you start to notice that actually it comes down to your ways of behaving and your ways of thinking that help to change how you feel. And it comes down to you and practice.
Thank you, Becs, for giving us such great insight into CBT and what it is. I hope you all found it really useful.